All right, let's do take two. Did take one, look back at it, started off good, didn't end well. So, um, 7 games last night. Let's get right into this because it's a lot to cover and I don't want to have a 40-50 minute video. First game, these 3 games I did not watch in their entirety. I spot checked these 2 games. I watched about half of this game, and these 4 games, watched the whole thing. So, let's start off here. The Wolves fall to Port Huron. Port Huron earns a split over the weekend, 2-1. Completely different tail of the tape from what we had on Friday night, where Port Huron just became extremely undisciplined. The penalty minutes were kept even. Port Huron was able to play physically without going overboard. New face, Bailey Hoover for the Prowlers. He is now the new darling in blue water as he saves all but one. Brendan Colgan plays fantastic, but comes up a little bit short because there weren't a lot of goals in this game. Game-winning goal was scored by Artu Haikala. I love that name. 8:06 of the third period. Shots on goal. As you can see, Port Huron had the edge in every period. The Wolves managed to keep things close thanks to Colgan. Colgan made a lot of good stops. But yeah, in the end, Port Huron pulls out the win. They are now 3-1. The Wolves 1, 2, and 1. The goal by the Wolves was scored on the power play by Brad Ryder. So yeah, Port Huron's perfect on the 5-5 situations. So yeah, Port Huron recover from it was just a bad game for them, and Watertown had taken advantage. Watertown is playing a very steady, solid game. So they are not going to be a pushover this year. I think they're going to struggle with getting a lot of wins, but it's not because they're playing poorly. The Wolves had a solid weekend, and they can be very proud of the fact that they escaped Port Huron with a win. All right, this was a tale of 2 games, the River Dragons and the Bobcats. We started off the game with Trevor Roy in goal for Columbus, and Anton Borodkin, newly acquired from the Wolves, in goal for the Bobcats. And Columbus jumped all over Borodkin. 10 shots in the first 7:47 of play. 3 of them went in. So it's 3-0 Columbus. It looked like this game may be over before it really got underway. But then Anthony Schrum came in, and there was, and again, I was spot checking, just kind of repeatedly checking in, like a minute here, a minute there. Blue Ridge just acted like a different team as soon as Schrum took the crease. The confidence level, just in their body language, in their flow, in their play, it was very noticeable, and they started to chip away. By the end of the first period, it's 3-2. And then Columbus starts to pull away again. It becomes 5-2, but last 4 goals of the game all belong to Blue Ridge, and they end up pulling out the win. Brandon Reller scores the game winner, 16:24 of the third period, breaking a 5-5 tie. Hitachi Energy Center went nuts. Shots on goal, yeah. In favor of the Bobcats in the first period. Second period, Columbus kind of took control. But as you look at these numbers, what concerns me about Columbus is that on paper, they've got one of the strongest defensive groups, and it has not played like it so far. Columbus is just giving up way too many shots, way too many goals, way too many opportunities. There needs to be something happening on the back end for the River Dragons. This team should not, on paper, be 1-3, but guess what? They're 1-3. The Bobcats, in the meantime, improved to 2-0. Columbus, they started strong, just couldn't finish. Blue Ridge, they kicked it into an extra gear, and to their credit, they pull out a win. So Schrum in the 52-13 he plays, stops 30 of 32. Anthony Schrum played very well this weekend. Of course, he got the win on Friday night and then earns the win as well on Saturday. Good crowd on hand as well. All right, and then this game, like I said, I watched about half of it. Biloxi gets their first win of the year, and they double up the Scarecrows. Rosenzweig, after a very shaky first start, he came back. He bounced back very, very well, played extremely well. 26-29, and save department. In that for the Topeka Scarecrows was not Ilya Brizgalov, but it was Danil Brizgalov. I don't know if he's scared of bears, but he might be scared of water right now after surrendering 5 goals. A bad pun, I know, I'm sorry. The game-winning goal scored in the second period by Declan Conway. 1640 shots on goal. And I have totals here. Thank you, John Clement, because, again, there was something that was lost in translation between the off-ice officials and the league on the official report. We didn't have shots on goal again. So this is courtesy of John Clement, these shot totals. Again, thank you very much. Good crowd on hand, again, 42-79, one of the better crowds of the night. The key to this, because Topeka won pretty easily on Friday night, Biloxi was able to push back. Topeka immediately, or very early in this game, tried to assert their physical dominance. Biloxi figured out the balance with pushing back, but not crossing the line and landing yourself constantly in the penalty box. Did a great job with that. Very disciplined play from Biloxi, and they had a couple power play goals. Biloxi, I think, I'm going to have to check my stats, but I believe Biloxi has scored more power play goals than they've scored 5-on-5 goals this year, which is kind of weird, but hey, yeah, it works. So yeah, we had Caden Henry with 4 points on the night, as well as Cole Crowder. You have Dokimov. He comes back, scores 2 goals and an assist. So, yeah, it's fantastic to see the offense come together for Biloxi. Topeka, they've started off very well, 3-1 on the year. Obviously, not the game they wanted to have last night, but I don't think they have anything to hang their head over. Still in excellent shape after 2 weeks of the opening season. All right, let's get in the games that I did watch in their entirety, starting off with the PD Ice Cats. Twin City had a great bounce-back game. PD just took over things offensively on Friday night. On Saturday night, it was Boris Babic leading the emotional charge. Now, Dylan Skinner was signed by the Thunderbirds, could have started. Babic obviously did not have a great night on Friday. Saturday, wow. And I've got to interject here, just getting away from this game for a moment and just talking about everything. Every year, we start off the year, first few games are very sloppy in general for all the teams. You see a lot of mistakes, a lot of turnovers, a lot of just not good play. I felt like, on the whole, last night was where we turned the corner and we started seeing, okay, so this is what this season is going to look like, which was great to see. So anyway, fourth game in, some of the teams seem to have figured it out. Okay, so back to this game. Babic played well. Gonzalez played well. He played much better than his stats would indicate. The guy he looked like Dominic Hasek out there, the way he was flopping around, making fantastic acrobatic saves. Unfortunately for him, Twin City just figured things out offensively. We knew the line of Zach White, Gus Ford, Roman Kramer was going to be a major force this year, and they proved it last night. Zach White ends up with 2 goals and assists. We had a goal and 2 assists by Gus Ford. So yeah, it was. This was what Twin City was hoping for. They got it a day late. So yeah, PD still had more shots on goal. They were able to implement their speed in spurts, but Twin City played much better on the back end, starting to limit some of PD's chances. And after a 2-1 first period start by PD, goals by Patrick's, Marcinkiewicz, and Trevor Glord. In between there was a goal by Zach White, the first one, and he added a goal later. Second period, it's goals by Jan Salak and Gus Ford. And the third period, Zach White scores again, 3:57. And then late in the game, Gonzalez gets pulled. Noah Hippolyte-Smith finds the empty net, seal the deal. And so a split on the weekend. And so Twin City feeling a little bit better about themselves. There was another goal. Well, not really, because PD in the third period thought they had scored a goal. Puck had beaten Babin, hits Twine. However, behind the play, there was a delayed penalty call, and that wiped out the goal. So that's why it's not 5-3. It's 5-2. 24:50 on hand. I think attendance will start to creep up once we hit December. We'll start seeing an increase in attendance there. Let's go on to Binghamton versus the Hat Tricks. Surprise, surprise. 10 total penalty minutes, 6 by Binghamton, 4 by Danbury. This was an extremely clean game. First period was practically boring, scoreless tie, and shots were 10-9 in favor of Danbury. Both teams played very well. I would say that both teams, this was by far the best game that they played. And yes, I'm saying that about Danbury too. They didn't have any, they didn't score, but I feel like their puck possession, their offensive cycling, their breakouts, everything looked a lot better. This was the best I've seen Danbury this year in the short season so far. Binghamton, they stay perfect. Gavin Yates, he ends up getting the first goal at 6:44 of the second. And then Mac Jansen did the rest. He scored at 4:30 of the third, added an empty netter with just 6 seconds left. And yeah, Binghamton gets the 3-0 win. Connor McAnanima didn't have the first 2 outings that he would have liked to have, so he really needed this game. Stops 21-21. Shots in the third period, 15-3 in favor of Binghamton. That's really where the difference was in this game. Frankie McClendon, despite coming up with a loss, played extremely well. A lot of goalies really played well last night, and that was, as a former goalie myself, I loved seeing that. McClendon stops 31 of 33 in 58-54 on ice. And again, this is just for two teams that just don't like each other. This was a shocker. It really was. But yeah, again, two teams kind of heading in opposite directions right now. I want to be very careful about what I say and how I say it with this game. And Indiana fans, please understand how I'm saying this. Obviously, there's a big difference between level of play between the two squads. Now, Indiana got started very late this year with being able to draft players and recruit players. There's been turmoil in the front office. There's been a lot of confusion with coaching. It didn't help the fact that current coach Rick Powell was not able to be at the games this weekend because, unfortunately, he is at home with COVID. We want to send well wishes to Rick Powell, and I hope you have a speedy recovery and are able to be back on the bench again next week. getting back to this game, the first period was, from an Indiana perspective, was great. Probably the best period of play you've had this year. Yeah, Alex Vigor scores the first goal at just 1:14 in. At the end of one period, it was 2-2, and shots, even though Athens had an edge, it was 19-13. Okay, giving up 19 shots, still too much, but generated 13 shots yourself. So Indiana, you're feeling really good about yourself after one period. It's like, hey, especially after the skunking that we just took the day before, this is good. You know, we're tied with Athens, and then the second period came in and the ceiling fell in. As Jim Mirabello, the Indiana play-by-play man, said, we're just trying to survive the nightmare that is the second period. Philippe Virgili and the team just turns it on. 3 goals, and shots were 26-4. Indiana starts getting very frustrated. There's a lot of silly penalties being taken. You did have a couple of highlight moments by Caleb Melanson, squaring off with Elias Thompson. That was a good fight. Fans loved that, really got into it. But after the first period, that was really all they really had to cheer for. A couple goals added on by Athens. So in the end, Virgili, 4 goals and an assist on the night, plus 2 power play goals. This on top of the 3 points he scored on Friday. Guess who the player of the week is, or the star of the week is? William Lavalier. He gets through the first period and then just goes in the shutdown mode, saves 24 of 26. Rutherford, despite giving up 7 goals, another fantastic performance, very reminiscent of him with the Dashers last year, where he would just make ridiculous save after ridiculous save. This game was not on Rutherford. He played extremely well. When you're facing 59 shots in a game, a few are going to get behind you, unfortunately. So Athens, they outscore Indiana 17-2 this weekend. By the way, all shots on goal, once again, were by the opposite goaltender. I'm not sure who's doing the stats, but okay. Penalty minutes in the game. This was one of the deciding factors as far as how the game went. Indiana nearly doubling Athens penalty minutes. So yeah, Indiana 0-4, looking for answers. They had the good period, and I guess at this point you have to take small steps. You have to look at successes in small increments. Indiana, you had a great first period, so there's something to build on. Athens, in the meantime, they're going to be one of the top teams in the Continental Division this year. They're 2-0, and their stats are looking mighty plump right now. Final game of the night, the Baton Rouge Zydeco. Surprise, not the fact that they won, because these two teams were pretty much on even keel last year, but the way that they won, and the performance of Bailey Stevens. Stevens, one of the best games I've seen from him in his career. The Moccasins, they weren't as flat as this score would indicate. There was a lot of spunk in this game. Well, let's get into it. Okay, first of all, I have to apologize for the pronunciation. Brian Flores, I gotta send you a message and figure out how to correctly say this name. I believe is Haikatapali. If I butchered that, my apologies, my severe apologies. But anyway, he ends up with 2 goals. He scores the first goal, and it was kind of downhill from there for the Monroe Moccasins. Kuznetsov scores in the first period, and then we had the second period. It's Tyler Larwood adding a shorthanded goal, even though on the stats it just says even strength. It was a shorthanded goal. I'm going to the last goal, Hekatapali scores again, shorthanded. That's at the end of the second period. And then the third period, minute 10 left. It's Austin Albrecht breaking the shutout. Now, there was a couple of things I want to touch on. First one, at 9:30 of the third period, it looked like the Mocs had scored. We went to a replay, and it took a while for the officials to get this call right, and they did get it right. All right. If this is your goal line, all right, for it to be considered a goal, there has to be visual space between the goal line and the puck. If it's like this, it's not a goal. On the review, it was proven the puck never entirely crossed the line. It got to about here, but there was not a gap in between the line and the puck. The correct call was made. I know Moccasins fans are going to disagree with that, but the rules are the rules. We got some great camera angles. Kudos to the camera crews for the Moccasins on getting those close-ups. Amazing work. Anyway, so yeah, this game. The other thing I want to mention is just of all the games, like I said, it seemed like most of the teams had turned the corner. I'm not so sure you can say that about this. Now, this was the first game for Baton Rouge, just the second game for Monroe. But there was a lot of nonsense in this game. A lot of undisciplined penalties. Look at this. 26 minor penalties. That's too much. That is just too much. Baton Rouge is 1 for 14 on the power play. Monroe 0 for 12. And then the stuff that happened in the end, I will just say this. I'm not going to mention any names, but there's players, staff, owners. You all talk about how you want the Fed to be more respectable, to receive more respect. If you want that, you've got to stop acting like you're stone dead drunk in a beer league game. You just have to. You have to stop. All right. I won't go into any more details. If you want the details, go watch the game if you haven't watched it. All right. So anyway, that is our recap for the day. And yeah, tomorrow I am going to put out Stars and Standings on the Facebook page through WordPress. You can look for it there. Again, we mentioned Virgili, spoiler alert. We're going to have power rankings, first real power rankings. I did preseason power rankings, but that really doesn't count. We're going to do the real thing on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, news and notes. We're going to talk a little bit more about rules and communication, and more about communication. A lot of weird drama this week. So tune in the news and notes on Wednesday, and you'll see for yourself. I am Gary Ryan for the Fed League Flash. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit like, hit subscribe if you have not already done so, and look forward to seeing you later in the week. Make sure you are subscribed to the Facebook page. As the news happens, I post it there, so you can keep up to date with what is going on in the FPHL. All right, guys, have a wonderful week ahead. Again, well wishes to Rick Powell. Get better soon, man. All right, we'll talk to you all soon.